The soft beep of an incoming transmission woke Marcus from his light sleep. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the flashing red light on his ship's console. Strange. His communication system wasn't supposed to pick up anything out here in the empty edges of human space. "Computer, what's that signal?" Marcus asked, pushing himself up from his small cot. "Unknown transmission detected, heavily encrypted, not matching any registered human communication protocols," the computer replied in its flat voice. Marcus ran his fingers through his messy brown hair. After 3 weeks alone in space hunting for abandoned cargo to salvage, any break from routine caught his interest. "Can you trace it?" "Signal origin is approximately 2 hours from current position at standard speed." Marcus thought for a moment. Following unknown signals wasn't smart for a lone salvager, but curiosity pulled at him. Plus, if someone was in trouble out here, they probably had valuable cargo. "Set course for the signal source," he said finally, "and try to decode that message." The small ship hummed as it changed direction. Marcus moved to the tiny kitchen area to make coffee. As the bitter drink warmed his hands, he looked out at the stars. Something about this signal felt different. "Partial decoding complete," the computer announced. "Message contains distress terminology. Appears to be a call for help." Marcus nodded. Just as he suspected. Someone in trouble meant opportunity. 2 hours later, his ship slowed as it approached the signal source. Through the view screen, Marcus saw a damaged vessel unlike any human ship he'd ever seen. It was elegant with smooth lines and a pearly white surface that seemed to glow faintly against the darkness of space. "What kind of ship is that?" he whispered. "Ship design matches Lumerian Royal Transport Vessel," the computer answered. "Warning. Direct contact with Lumerian royal property violates interspecies diplomatic protocols. Recommended action. Report location to Space Authority and withdraw." Marcus frowned. The Lumerians were an advanced alien civilization the humans had only recently made contact with. Relations were still new and fragile. But if someone was truly in distress, "Any life signs on board?" he asked. "One life form detected. Vital signs weak and declining." That settled it. Marcus couldn't leave someone to die, regardless of politics. "Prepare for docking." After connecting his ship to the damaged vessel, Marcus put on his spacesuit and entered through the emergency airlock. Inside, the alien ship was even more beautiful. Walls that seemed made of flowing crystal gave off a soft blue light, but many sections were damaged, with cracks running through the walls and sparks coming from broken panels. Marcus followed his scanner toward the life sign. The air was thin but breathable, so he removed his helmet as he moved deeper into the ship. Finally, he reached what looked like a control room. There, trapped under a fallen beam, lay a figure that was clearly not human. Her skin had a faint bluish glow, and what looked like delicate crystal formations framed her face instead of hair. Despite her alien features, her expression of pain was unmistakable. Her eyes, large and completely silver without pupils, widened when she saw Marcus. "Human," she said weakly in perfect English, "you should not be here. It's dangerous." "I picked up your distress signal," Marcus replied, kneeling beside her. "Are you hurt?" "My ship was attacked. Life support is failing." She tried to move and winced. "I am Ilara of the Royal House of Lumera. You must leave before they return." Marcus glanced at his scanner. Her life signs were growing weaker. "I'm not leaving you here to die, princess or not," he said firmly, starting to lift the beam. "My name is Marcus, and I'm getting you out of here." As he freed her from the debris, Marcus had no idea that this rescue would change everything. For him, for Ilara, and for the future of human and Lumerian relations across the stars. Marcus carried the injured princess back to his ship, her light body surprisingly warm against his chest. Once inside, he gently placed her on his cot. "Computer, can you run a medical scan?" Marcus asked, watching Ilara's chest rise and fall with shallow breaths. "Subject is Lumerian female. Injuries include 3 broken ribs and internal bleeding. Caution: Lemurian physiology differs significantly from human. Standard medical protocols may be ineffective. Ilara's silver eyes fluttered open. "Your kindness is unexpected," she whispered. "Don't talk. Save your strength," Marcus said, searching his limited medical supplies. "You don't understand," she continued, grabbing his arm with surprising strength. "They will hunt us both now." "Who will?" "Traitors within my government. They tried to kill me." Her voice grew stronger despite her injuries. "I discovered their plot. War preparations against humans. Poison in my father's food. They want control of the empire." Marcus frowned. "Why tell me this? I'm just a salvager." "Because you saved me when you had no reason to." Ilara winced in pain. "And now you're in danger too." Before Marcus could respond, his ship's alarm blared. "Warning: Lemurian military vessel approaching. Weapons systems active." "They found us already," Ilara said. "They must have tracked my ship." Marcus rushed to the controls. "Computer, disconnect from the royal transport and prepare for emergency jump." The small salvage ship shuddered as it detached. Marcus punched in the fastest escape route. "Hold on," he shouted as the stars outside stretched into lines. The pursuing ship fired, but they slipped into hyperspace just in time. When they emerged hours later, Marcus checked their position. They were far from known patrol routes, but dangerously low on fuel. "We can't keep running like this," he said. "We need a plan and supplies." Ilara sat up slowly, her injuries already looking better. "My people heal quickly," she explained, seeing his surprised look. "But we need somewhere safe to hide while I contact those loyal to my father. Even the human border patrols will be looking for us by now. Taking a royal without permission. I'll be labeled a kidnapper." Ilara's face darkened. "I'm sorry to involve you in this." "Too late now," Marcus said with a small smile. "I've always had bad timing." As they discussed options, the ship suddenly lost power. All systems went dark. "Computer, what's happening?" Marcus called, but received no answer. To his amazement, Ilara's body began to glow softly. She raised her hand toward the dead control panel. Small threads of light extended from her fingertips, connecting with the ship's systems. The lights flickered back on. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked, stunned. "It's not something we share with outsiders," she said hesitantly. "We can connect with technology. Feel it. Guide it. That's incredible. It's why the military council fears peace with humans. Your technology advances so quickly. If our peoples truly united." She let the thought hang in the air. A beeping alert interrupted them. "We've been tagged by a tracking probe," Marcus said, checking the scanner. "We need to disappear fast." Ilara stood shakily. "I may know a place. An old trading post where species from across the galaxy hide from their troubles. Can you reach these coordinates?" Marcus looked at the numbers she showed him. "That's deep in the forgotten sector. Nobody goes there voluntarily." "Exactly why it's perfect," she replied. "Do you trust me, Marcus?" He studied her alien face, so different yet somehow familiar in its determination. "I probably shouldn't," he answered honestly. "But yes, I think I do." As they set course for the mysterious coordinates, Marcus wondered how his simple salvage mission had turned into a desperate flight across the stars with an alien princess. Whatever happened next, nothing in his life would ever be the same. The ship emerged from hyperspace into a dense asteroid field. Marcus expertly navigated between the massive rocks, following Ilara's directions. There, she pointed to what looked like just another asteroid, hidden in plain sight. As they drew closer, Marcus saw it, camouflaged entrances, and tiny lights that revealed an artificial structure built inside the asteroid. A hidden colony. "What is this place?" he asked. "Outpost 7. A sanctuary for those who need to disappear," Ilara explained. "Many species live here together, away from their government's reach." A gruff voice came over the communication system. Unidentified vessel, state your business or be shot down. Tell them we seek shelter under the old code, Ilara whispered. Marcus repeated her words. After a tense moment, a hidden hangar door slid open on the asteroid's surface. Granted, but we're watching you. Inside the hangar, Marcus was amazed to see dozens of ships from different worlds. As they exited their vessel, a tall man with a scared face approached, flanked by 2 guards with weapons ready. Marcus Reed. The man said, his eyes widening. I thought you were dead. Marcus stared in shock. Jack, you're running this place now. Jack laughed and embraced Marcus. 5 years since that job on Titan, and you show up with... He stopped, noticing Ilara. A Lumerian royal? Are you insane? Probably, Marcus admitted. We need help, Jack. People are hunting us. Jack's expression turned serious. Inside. Now, before someone sees her. He led them through crowded corridors where humans mingled with at least 6 other alien species. Some stared at Ilara with curiosity or hostility. Finally, they reached private quarters. You've made powerful enemies, Jack said after Marcus explained their situation. There's already a bounty for both your heads. 10 million credits, dead or alive. 10 million? Marcus whispered. I need to contact loyalists in my government, Ilara said. Do you have secure communications? Jack nodded. But it'll cost you. Everything does here. I can pay once I'm restored to my position, Ilara promised. And if you're not? Jack asked pointedly. Marcus removed his prized salvage scanner. Take this as down payment. It's worth plenty on the black market. Jack examined the device and nodded. You can stay 3 days. I'll arrange communication access. But after that, you're on your own. After Jack left, Marcus collapsed onto a worn couch. So that's the famous Outpost 7 hospitality. You trust this Jack? Ilara asked, sitting beside him. We worked together years ago. He's rough but fair. Marcus shrugged. Usually. Your scanner seemed valuable. Why give it up? Because staying alive seems more valuable right now, he replied with a tired smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Ilara spoke again. You're different from what I expected humans to be like. How so? In our education, humans are portrayed as primitive and selfish. But you risked everything to help someone not even of your species. Her silver eyes studied his face. Why? Marcus thought about it. I don't know. It seemed like the right thing to do. Would you have done differently if our positions were reversed? I'd like to think not, she said softly. My father taught me that kindness transcends species. Not everyone in my government shares that view. Over the next 2 days, they explored the outpost together. Marcus was fascinated watching Ilara interact with the colony's technology, her fingers trailing light as she connected with systems. She seemed equally interested in human customs, asking endless questions about Earth. On the 3rd night, as they shared a meal of strange outpost food, Marcus realized something had changed. He no longer saw her as an alien princess, but as Ilara, brave, intelligent, and somehow familiar despite her otherworldly beauty. What he didn't know was that outside their quarters, Jack was having a very different conversation, one about reward money and betrayal. The communications array is ready, Jack announced, leading Marcus and Ilara through a narrow corridor deep inside the asteroid. Completely secure, not even my people can monitor it. The room he showed them to was small, filled with mismatched equipment salvaged from various ships and planets. At the center stood a transmitter that looked ancient but had been modified with newer technology. You have 1 hour, Jack said. After that, the signal might be traced. When they were alone, Ilara approached the equipment. Her fingertips began to glow as she connected with the system. What exactly are we looking for? Marcus asked, watching in fascination. Evidence, she replied, her voice distant as she focused. Before my ship was attacked, I discovered messages between members of the military council. I need to find their secure channel again. Marcus kept watch at the door while Ilara worked. Her face reflected the changing light of the screens as she navigated through encrypted Lemurian networks. "There," she whispered suddenly. "I found it." Data began streaming across the screens. Messages, plans, and images too quick for Marcus to follow. Ilara's eyes widened as she absorbed the information directly through her connection. "It's worse than I feared," she said, her voice shaking. "They've been poisoning my father for months. The Emperor is dying. Can it be stopped? Perhaps if we reached him in time. But that's not all." Her silver eyes met his. "They're preparing for war, Marcus. Against human territories." "War? But why? Our species barely know each other." Ilara pulled up more files. "Look at these production orders for weapons. These military deployment plans. The Council has been planning this for years." Marcus studied the translated documents. "This doesn't make sense. A war would devastate both our peoples." "It's not about victory," Ilara explained. "It's about power and profit. The military council controls our weapons production. In peacetime, their influence wanes. In war, they control everything." Marcus finished. "Including who sits on the throne if your father dies." Ilara nodded grimly. "The council fears peace between our species. Humans advance quickly, adapt easily. A true alliance would threaten their control. So they'd rather kill millions." "Billions," she corrected. "A full-scale war between our civilizations would be catastrophic." Marcus felt the weight of this knowledge settle on his shoulders. What had started as a simple rescue had become something much larger. "We need to get this evidence to both governments," he said. "Stop this before it starts." Ilara continued downloading data to a small crystal she wore around her neck. "The human border patrols would shoot us down before we could explain. And Lemurian space is controlled by the Council's forces now. There must be someone who can help," Marcus insisted. "Your father's loyalists. If any remain alive." Ilara's connection with the system suddenly flickered. "Something's wrong." Warning lights flashed across the control panel. "Someone's tracing the signal," Marcus realized. "We need to leave. Now." They rushed back through the corridors toward their ship. But halfway there, they heard shouting and the sound of weapons firing. "They found us," Ilara said, fear in her voice for the first time since Marcus had met her. They ducked into an empty storage room. Marcus peered through the small window and saw armed figures in the distance. "Those aren't outpost security," he whispered. "Those are Lemurian military uniforms." Ilara's face hardened. "The Council must have agents here. Or someone sold us out," Marcus said, thinking of Jack's two casual questions about their plans. Either way, they were trapped. Marcus checked his small blaster, barely enough to hold off trained soldiers. But the information Ilara carried could prevent a war. "We need to reach our ship," he said, "whatever it takes." Ilara touched the crystal containing the evidence. "This isn't just about saving me anymore, is it?" "No," Marcus agreed. "Now it's about saving everyone." "There's a service tunnel behind this panel," Marcus whispered, feeling along the wall. "I noticed it when we first arrived. It should lead toward the hangar." Ilara helped him slide the panel open, revealing a narrow passage barely lit by emergency lights. They crawled inside just as footsteps thundered past their hiding place. "I knew we couldn't trust Jack," Marcus muttered as they moved through the dusty tunnel. The reward money was too tempting. "Is betrayal common among humans?" Ilara asked, her voice soft in the darkness. "Not more than any other species, I imagine." He paused to help her over a broken section of flooring. "Though right now, I'd like to think we're the only ones who make such poor friendship choices." Despite everything, Ilara laughed, a sound like wind chimes that echoed in the small space. The sound made Marcus smile briefly before reality crashed back. They reached a junction where the tunnel split three ways. Marcus hesitated, trying to remember the outpost's layout. "Left," Ilara said confidently. "I can sense the ship's systems. They haven't disabled it yet. Marcus followed her lead. The princess moved gracefully despite the tight space, her skin giving off just enough glow to light their way. After several minutes of crawling, they reached another panel. The hangar should be just beyond, Marcus whispered, pressing his ear against the metal. I don't hear anyone. He carefully pushed the panel open. The massive hangar lay before them. Ships of all sizes docked in their berths. Marcus spotted his small vessel just 50 meters away, but between them and freedom stood Jack and 4 armed guards. I was wondering when you'd show up, Jack called, his voice echoing in the large space. The service tunnels. Smart move, Marcus, but predictable. Why, Jack? Marcus asked, stepping forward with his hands raised. We were friends. Jack shrugged. 10 million credits buys a lot of friendship, nothing personal. The information we have could prevent a war, Marcus argued. Millions of lives are at stake. Not my problem, Jack replied. The Lumerians are paying for the princess. You're just a bonus. Marcus noticed Ilara's hands beginning to glow faintly behind her back. He kept talking to distract Jack. So that's it. You're fine with causing a war just for money. Wars are good for business in places like this, Jack said coldly. Now enough talking. In that moment, Ilara thrust her hands forward. Streams of light shot from her fingertips, connecting with the hangar's electrical systems. The lights exploded in showers of sparks, plunging the area into darkness except for emergency lighting. Run, she shouted. Marcus grabbed her hand, and they sprinted toward the ship. Behind them, Jack's men fired blindly, their shots hitting ships and equipment. They were halfway to the ship when a shot struck Marcus in the back. He stumbled, falling hard onto the metal floor. Pain exploded through his body. Marcus, Ilara cried, dropping beside him. Go, he gasped. Get to the ship. Complete the mission. Blood soaked through his shirt. He could barely move his legs. I won't leave you, she insisted. You have to, he coughed. The evidence is what matters. Save both our peoples. Ilara looked at the ship, then back at Marcus. Her silver eyes seemed to glow brighter with determination. There is another way, she whispered. But once done, it cannot be undone. What do you mean? My people can share life force to heal others, but it creates a permanent bond, a connection that transcends physical space. Her voice was urgent. Do you consent? Marcus heard Jack's men getting closer. The mission, the evidence, billions of lives at stake. Do it, he said. Ilara placed her glowing hands on his chest. Light spread from her fingers into his wound. Marcus felt warmth replace the pain. Then something much stronger. A connection opening between their minds, their thoughts merging like rivers joining. As Jack and his men surrounded them with weapons drawn, Marcus stood up, completely healed but forever changed. In his mind, he could feel Ilara's presence, her thoughts touching his. The bond was formed, and nothing would ever be the same. The Lumerian capital glittered like a city made of crystal and light. From their hiding place in the maintenance tunnels beneath the grand imperial palace, Marcus and Ilara watched guards patrol the corridors through a small viewing screen. The diplomatic summit begins in 1 hour, Ilara whispered. My father and the human representatives will be there, along with the entire military council. Marcus nodded, feeling her nervousness through their new bond. Since Ilara had healed him, their minds remained connected, her thoughts brushing against his emotions flowing into hers. Are you sure this disguise will work? He asked, adjusting the Lumerian guard uniform they had stolen during their escape from Outpost 7. With the bond between us, I can project a partial illusion, she explained. Anyone looking directly at you will see what I want them to see. They had barely escaped Jack's betrayal, fleeing in Marcus's ship while Ilara masked their energy signature. The journey to the Lumerian homeworld had been dangerous, slipping past military checkpoints using Ilara's powers and Marcus's piloting skills. Remember the plan, she said, touching the crystal containing their evidence. We reached the summit chamber, seal the doors, and broadcast the proof to everyone present. And if something goes wrong? Marcus asked. Then we improvise, she replied with a small smile. Isn't that what humans are good at? Moving through the palace corridors, they passed numerous guards who barely glanced at them. Through their bond, Marcus could feel Ilara maintaining the illusion, her mind focused despite her exhaustion. They reached the grand doors of the summit chamber just as delegates began to enter. Marcus positioned himself as a guard while Ilara slipped inside, her royal garments hidden beneath a simple cloak. Now, her voice touched his mind. Marcus entered the chamber, closing and sealing the massive doors behind him. Inside, representatives from both species sat around a large table. At its head was Emperor Thelos, Ilara's father, once powerful but now clearly weakened, his skin barely glowing. At the table's other end sat the 5 members of the military council, their faces showing surprise as Ilara removed her cloak and stepped forward. "Father," she called out, "I bring evidence of treason." The room erupted in chaos. The council members rose from their seats, shouting orders to guards who suddenly found themselves unable to open the sealed doors. "Ilara," the emperor's voice was weak but filled with hope. "My daughter, they told me you were dead." "The council lied," she replied, connecting the crystal to the room's display system. "They've been poisoning you slowly while preparing for war against the humans." The evidence appeared on screens around the room. Secret orders, weapons production plans, and most damning, recordings of council meetings discussing the emperor's assassination. "This is outrage," shouted Dren, the head counselor. "This human has corrupted the princess's mind." He pointed at Marcus. "Guards, arrest them both." The emperor raised a trembling hand. "No, I have suspected something was wrong for months." He looked at the evidence with clear eyes. "My daughter speaks the truth." Through their bond, Marcus felt Ilara's relief at her father's trust. But he also sensed something else, danger approaching. Behind you, he projected the thought to her just as Counselor Dren drew a hidden weapon. Marcus leaped forward, tackling the counselor, but not before a shot was fired. The emperor cried out, struck in the chest by the energy blast. The room descended into chaos as guards finally broke through the doors. Ilara rushed to her father's side, cradling him as his light began to fade. "My time is ending," the emperor whispered. The poison had already done its work. "Father, no," Ilara sobbed. "We can heal you." "It is too late for me." He touched her face gently. "But not for our people, not for peace." With great effort, he removed the royal circlet from his head. "By imperial right and blood, I name you Empress of Lumera. Lead them to a better future." As the emperor placed the circlet on Ilara's head, his final words echoed through the chamber. "Trust the human who risked everything. Find peace between our worlds." With those words, the emperor's light faded completely. Ilara stood, the royal circlet now glowing brightly on her brow, as guards subdued the council members. Through their bond, Marcus felt her transformation, grief and determination merging into something powerful. She was no longer just a princess in danger. She was Empress Ilara of Lumera. And the galaxy would never be the same. 1 month after the emperor's death, Marcus stood alone on a balcony overlooking the crystal spires of the Lumerian capital. The city sparkled in the light of 2 rising moons, beautiful and alien all at once, just like his current situation. In the weeks since the dramatic confrontation, the conspiracy had been fully exposed. The surviving members of the military council faced justice for their crimes. The planned war had been averted. Yet Marcus felt strangely out of place, a human stranded in an alien court. Through their bond, he could sense Ilara's constant presence, but her new responsibilities as Empress kept them apart most days. She spent hours in council meetings, diplomatic sessions, and public appearances, working to heal the divide her father's death had created. "Credit for your thoughts." Ilara's voice came from behind him. Marcus turned to see her standing in the doorway. Even now, her beauty took his breath away. The royal circlet gleamed against her luminous skin, and her silver eyes reflected the moonlight. "Just wondering what happens next," he admitted. "The mission is over. Your throne is secure. Maybe it's time I return to human space." He felt her sadness through their bond before it showed on her face. "Is that what you want?" she asked quietly. "What I want doesn't matter much," Marcus shrugged. "I'm just a salvager. You're an empress with a civilization to lead." Ilara stepped closer. "You are far more than just a salvager, Marcus Reed. You risked everything for me. For peace. Anyone would have done the same." "No," she said firmly. "They wouldn't. That's why I've made my decision." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, a group of Lumerian royal guards and counselors entered the balcony, followed by the human diplomatic delegation. Everyone formed a semicircle around them, faces solemn. "What's happening?" Marcus whispered. Through their bond, he felt her nervous excitement, but couldn't read her specific thoughts. She was deliberately shielding them from him. Ilara turned to address the gathered officials. "For generations, my people have kept themselves separate from other species. This isolation has brought us neither safety nor wisdom." Her voice carried across the balcony. "Today, we begin a new chapter." She gestured for Marcus to step forward. Marcus Reed of Earth saved my life at great personal risk. He helped expose a conspiracy that would have plunged our civilizations into war. The bond we now share represents something unprecedented, a connection between our species that transcends physical barriers. The human diplomats exchanged confused glances while the Lumerian officials remained expressionless. "Therefore, as my first official act as Empress," Ilara continued, "I hereby appoint Marcus Reed as the human ambassador to the Lumerian Empire." Gasps echoed from both delegations. One elderly Lumerian counselor stepped forward in protest. "Your Majesty, this is impossible. No non-Lumerian has ever held such a position. And this bond you share, it is sacred, meant only for our kind, and traditionally reserved for life partners." "Exactly," Ilara replied calmly, "which is precisely why he is perfect for this role. Our bond ensures complete transparency and trust, something diplomacy has always lacked." Marcus stood frozen in shock. "Ambassador. Him. A simple salvager with no diplomatic training." "Empress," he began quietly, "I don't know the first thing about being an ambassador." Through their bond, her warm response flowed. "You know how to be honest, how to be brave. The rest you can learn." The human delegation's leader stepped forward. "While unusual, we see the wisdom in your decision. Empress, Ambassador Reed will have our full support." As the officials discussed logistics, Ilara led Marcus to a quieter corner of the balcony. "I should have warned you," she said softly, "but I feared you would refuse." "Because I would have," he admitted. "This is crazy, Ilara." "Perhaps," she smiled, "but the counselor was right about one thing. This bond we share is traditionally meant for life partners among my people." Marcus felt his heart race. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that what began as a rescue has become something much more important." She took his hands in hers. "For both our peoples, and perhaps for us as well." As the twin moons rose higher over the crystal city, Marcus realized that this ending was actually a beginning. A human salvager and an alien empress, connected across the stars in ways no one had imagined possible. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they.